Hello, everybody. Mr. Maloney back again. We are on conflicts and change in the Middle East PowerPoint here today. So we're going to try to give you some information about what has happened in the Middle East so that you can know what's going on in the world that's changing around you on a daily basis. So first, we got to talk about the impact of geography. So if you haven't grabbed the PowerPoint yet here on your phone or on the computer or anything like that, go to the website, mrmaloney.weebly.com, under Files, PowerPoints. Go there and grab that work. Let's see. Just happened to lose mine, so wait a second. We will get that back up here. All right, so now we are back. Sorry about that. So the impact of geography on the Middle East here. The Middle East connects Europe, Africa, and Asia. It is not a continent. The Middle East is not a continent. It's a part of Europe, Africa, and Asia. There's a wide diversity of religion, peoples, beliefs, and cultures in the Middle East. Oil rules the region, and the rest of the world is very interested in getting their hands on that oil. A Jewish state among Arab nations. The creation of Israel here in the Middle East. There was a Zionist movement before World War II led by Theodor Herzl. We had talked about this before in class. That is Theodor Herzl right there. The Zionist movement was the attempt to try to create a nation for the Jews to go back to their homeland, which they had been knocked out of thousands of years before. So they were hoping to get a Jewish state there. And after World War II, this is going to be granted after the Holocaust. So this is the land they want right here. At the time, it was Palestine is what it was called, but Palestine was not a country. Palestine was a protectorate of Great Britain. So over here, this is the map of Palestine right here. It's modern day Jerusalem or modern day Israel. And the Jews took that as their homeland after World War II. So briefly going back here, World War II, we had the Holocaust. Israel, a British colony known as Palestine, would be given to the Jews as their homeland. So they're going to get back to their homeland. That doesn't mean that the people that live in Palestine want to give up their homes, though. So you've got people that live there, and they're going to take their homes, and they're going to give it to the Jews, and that's going to create a lot of animosity in the Middle East, and it's going to lead to some fights. And even to this day, people are not happy about what happened there. So many survivors from the Holocaust moved to Israel. But since the Palestinians already were there, it became the home of two peoples, and two peoples that are not going to like each other. So Israel gets its independence as a nation in 1948. It's proclaimed a Jewish state, the only true Jewish country in the world. 2 million Jews migrated to Israel after World War II. And we're going to see some wars as a result of this. So the Palestinians and the Arab-Israeli wars are going to take place. The first war between the two takes place in 1948. The Palestinians lost. This created 700,000 Arab refugees. So these are people that were knocked out of their homes as a result. So when the Jews first went to Palestine and they took the land, they didn't take too much land from them. But when the Palestinians attacked, the Jews thought that they had, because they had no right to attack them, they thought that they could take more land. So they knocked 700,000 people out of their homes. So these refugees started to flee to other parts and looked for parts of the Middle East that wanted to take them. But nobody really wanted to take them. The neighbor in Jordan didn't want them. Lebanon, Syria, like they didn't want these refugees to go there. So the bitter Palestinians weren't happy, and Israel is going to double its size as a result of this. So here's a map of the partition of Palestine, and it's going to turn into Israel. The PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. This guy right here, his name is Yasser Arafat. He represented the Palestinians. A lot of people in the world consider him one of the first lead terrorists in the world. He's seen giving speeches proclaiming for young Muslims to be willing to give their life for fighting for the Palestinian movement against the Jews in Israel. So his goal is to regain Palestine for the Palestinians and the Muslims. Terrorism. In 1972 Olympic Games in Munich, 11 Israeli athletes were taken hostage in a hotel in Munich, Germany, and they were eventually brutally murdered there. They were killed. There's been a series of wars ever since between the PLO and the Israeli government. And there you could see a picture of a boy in front of a tank, an Israeli tank, throwing a stone or rock at the tank. I don't know that that's going to work out too well. So here's just a picture of a map here, a flag of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. But there's a map, and it's got a bunch of places where there's been battles throughout history. Here are the people that were taken hostage during the hostage crisis, and here's one of the terrorists right there that took them hostage and killed them. Camp David Accords in 1979 took place. Egypt and Israel signed a peace agreement under Jimmy Carter's regime here. And then eventually we're going to see the Intifada. Intifada means to set free. It's a Palestinian uprising, which led to more terrorism by the PLO. Eventually, in 1993, there were peace talks between the PLO and Israel. Yitzhak Rabin, the Israeli prime minister, agreed to give Palestinians land in Gaza Strip and Jericho, but not self-rule. And they also created peace with Jordan as well. So this was a big deal for Israel to get peace with some of the neighbors in the Middle East. And here, as the negotiations took place, they actually took place in the United States. And that's American leader right there, Colin Powell. And there is the Palestinian leader and the Jewish leader going to meet with President Bill Clinton and trying to hash out an agreement. And Bill Clinton was very happy because he got them to actually have a peace agreement that didn't last very long, but they actually struck a deal for a peace agreement in the 1990s. Here's just a political cartoon showing what could potentially happen right there. Basically showing the last Palestinian and the last Israeli, and they would basically fight till the finish. They're willing to actually die as an entire race of people over fighting over this land, which seems silly. Civil War in Lebanon. The Lebanese are going to get independence from France after World War II. We're going to see a diverse population there. Christians, Muslims, lived in peace until the Palestinian refugees moved there in 1967. And when they moved there, they didn't like the Christians, so this became a war between the Lebanese Muslims and the Lebanese Christians. Lebanon today has on again, off again fighting, but here is the percentage of people that are living in Lebanon, and you can see the colors on the map of Lebanon where these people live. So you got Shia Muslim, Sunni Muslim, Maronites, other Christians, and then Druze Muslim. So there is a Muslim majority in Lebanon. That Muslim majority today is slightly anti-Christian, I would say more anti-Christian than okay with Christians. There's been that Lebanese civil war going on, Christians versus Muslims, since 1975. We're going to see the help of Syria. Syria is going to help the Lebanese Muslims, and Israel is going to be helping the Christians in this on again, off again war. And every now and then we see that the fighting continues. There's definitely not 100% peace in Lebanon at this time. So basically shows you the dark green's controlled by Syria, the purple's controlled by Christian militias, and the light green controlled by Palestinian militias. Today it's not as bad because Syria's got its own civil war, so you don't have as much of the fighting by the Syrian rebels over there. So to sum up what we learned about the collapse of colonialism here. The economic collapse for a colony based on the reliance on one product like tea, coffee, or oil. When the price of that item goes down, so does their entire economy as they're tied into that. Like the United States has so many goods or things that we sell that if the price of one goes down, we are not reliant on one and it doesn't kill us. But when you are reliant on one thing as a country to make and the price or the world doesn't want that anymore, something happens, you are really in trouble. Civil wars throughout the world, like religious civil wars in India and the Middle East, or governmental ones like democracy versus communism, are what we noticed a lot in this chapter. We see the debt of these governments. They get loans from powerful countries, but these debts, they're indebted to these other countries. We see the lack of education and technology leads to a cycle of poverty in the world. And then we were able to see some genocides that we learned about, these horrible travesties that have happened throughout the world. In Africa, they happened in Rwanda, where we saw over 1 million Tutsis get murdered brutally by the Hutus. In Nigeria, Uganda, South Africa, even Sudan and Somalia, we've seen these. And in Asia, like China and Cambodia, where Pol Pot killed as many as 2 to 5 million people. A lot of people think that genocide was just the Holocaust, but there's still genocides out there today. There are crazy people out there that want to kill other people for the color of their skin, their race, their religion, and we have to be prouder than that as the human race. We have to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. We have to go out there and make sure things like this don't happen, and that's why we're learning about this in school. So hopefully you guys got a lot of information out of this. Again, when you get your work, submit it online in Schoology, and hope you all are doing great. And if you have any questions, as always, email me or Mr. Glazer. And for y'all, have a great rest of the week, and we will see you again soon.